I'm going to ask our amazing host Mary here for some assistance in this first bit. I'm going to start out with an impression. Y'all like impressions? So this is my impression of Jay-Z's mom. Thank you. CJ, for getting here. All right, so actually, I'm gonna do a lot of impressions. It's kind of my theme for this set. Impressions establish expectations, right? So I want to establish an expectation right off the bat that these are impressions, not impersonations. Okay, but this is the kind of get the idea of what the light's doing on that field over there, not this is a photorealistic image of that flower, okay? Like, here's a good example of an impression, came up with a long time ago. I don't know if I'm the only one who was incredibly disappointed with the run of that DVD porn had. There was not a good audio commentary on any of them. You could have at least gotten John Madden to be like, okay, so he's at the cop here, and then boom, she comes in, he thinks he's by himself, boom, they're together, and then, uh-oh, here comes a third person, boom, I'll try it. See, that's not a good impersonation, but you get it, right? So, impressions, there are lots of things that can create an impression. Clothing, also our voices create an impression. For example, if you seeing me up here wearing this, it's not that odd of a combination, I think. But say I were to have a slightly different accent. Say I were to come in and begin speaking to you like this, and maybe looking down at you a little bit. You would probably expect me to start listing the wines that we have available and which ones I would recommend and which ones I know you can't afford. And that's fine. Or if I were, to come in speaking in a bit of more of an accent, like, maybe I just come over from Edinburgh, and it's just, no, I'm just here for, a family affair, right? So maybe I'm just traveling, slightly more exotic, or if I was more specifically Scottish and I came up to say, a bartender, excuse me. You'd think you'd know what I was going to order. But I really just want to know if you have any iron gluten. Or say I was to walk in and I was to start talking like this, talking about my friend Chet, talking about our Chevy. You'd probably start very quickly expecting me to be doing something like this, feeling very uncomfortable, out of sorts. Those are just impressions that you have based on my voice and what I'm wearing. Sometimes, though, the best impressions can be made by not saying anything and just waiting for the right moment. For example, a friend of mine was once receiving some unwanted attention from a really drunk English guy. I was at a trade show in Germany for work, and true story. And my friend went outside to smoke a cigarette, and while she was outside, this guy sat down on the bar stool that she'd been sitting in. My coworkers and I just kind of looked over, and I, having not said a word the entire time that he'd been talking with her, decided now was, maybe a reasonable time to introduce myself, especially after one of my colleagues said, hey, what are you doing? That's her seat. And he goes, no, it's fine. She can sit on my lap when she gets back. And I said, that's my cue. Hello, you want to sit on lap? I sit on lap. Yeah, no, that's fine. That man was faster than I expected. And that was fine. Sometimes the impressions we make, right, are not what people are expecting, right? We can start to play with people's expectations, right? So one of the things, for example, I'm a huge fan of doing karaoke. And I love going to karaoke shows dressed like this and then absolutely nailing Pantera's Walk. Because that is not what they were expecting. But other things to do, I also like to do some impressions when I do karaoke. For example, I like doing Christina Aguilera's Beautiful as the Phantom of the Opera. Because you are beautiful, no matter what they say. Or Arnold Schwarzenegger singing Lady Gaga. Yes. Get to the cha-pa-pa. You know, or you know, I'm a dad. If you've seen me on this stage before, it's often as Dad Max, and you know, I'm not above a dad joke here and there. So every so often, if it's after 12 a.m., I'll become walking after midnight, out in the moonlight, like the way we used to do. It's a good time. Or, you know, singing the classic Johnny Cash version of Hurt as Kermit the Frog. I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. Or my favorite, and I've actually, this is one of those like brain things where like I've only gotten this far with this song, but it's as far as I think it needs to go. And that's Admiral Akbar singing Elvis. I got a trap. I can't get out because I love you too much, baby. It's a trap. Because it was in this. But sometimes, like, what if? And so it's fun. It's fun to play with expectations. It's fun to play with that. Play with impressions. And people's impressions of you. But sometimes, right, you get to this point where there's an impression and it's a little disturbing, right? The expectation, the gap between expectation and reality, like, really doesn't sit well. Like, for example, one night characters on huge. Look, that's good. You will not. Yeah. Yoda coming out of Robert De Niro's face is freaking weird. It's uncomfortable even. And I think about this, and I've been thinking about this stuff a lot the past couple of years in particular, because in 2020, my 12-year-old came out as non-binary. And I had to start thinking about my expectations and what my expectations for them had been and were going to be. Now, first and foremost, I don't give a shit. They're themselves. That's like a number one. And honestly, when you think about it, like, non-binary actually makes way more freaking sense. Because, look, let's think about it in terms that maybe are a bit more like we can kind of sink our teeth into, right? Ones and zeros, right? 1-bit computer graphics suck. Yeah. You have black or white, there is no color, you have 0 color range with 1-bit, with binary graphics. You go to 8-bit graphics. 8 little, you give yourself 8 options, and suddenly you're at 16.7 million colors in your computer graphics. You go to 16-bit, which is not even, which we blew by that long ago. 16-bit graphics gives you, whatever, 281 trillion color options. Now, I don't know about you, I'm old, and I remember when Mario was not as super. He was like decent Mario. So slightly above average Mario Brothers. And that was, and watching the progression, like that little character getting fleshed out, form, curves. Binary has no curves. Fuck that. I cannot be the only fan of curves in this building. So, non-binary makes way more sense to me than binary anyway, right? So, I'm thinking about these things, and it forced me to come to grips with something, and with kind of my sense of myself. You know, people ask me a lot, and you know, this was family members, things like that. When my child came out and said, you know, I really prefer they, them pronouns, I get a lot of, well, why is that? Why do they prefer that? I don't get it. And it gave me a moment to pause and do some introspection. Say, okay, why do I prefer he, him pronouns? What is it about me that makes me identify as male? Is it because I have hair? No. Is it because I have facial hair? Well, I've gone without facial hair and I haven't asked anybody to change their calling me pronouns. Is it the color of clothing that I wear? Or the type of clothing that I wear? No, I've worked in all kinds of jobs, doing all sorts of things, trying all sorts of things. None of that has made me want someone to change my pronouns from he, him. Okay? Well, let's see. What else have we got? Is it having money? Nope, I've been broke. Is it being able to support a family? No. It took me a long time to get any kind of financial stability. But my paycheck never caused me to question whether I wanted someone to say he, him, and whether how I thought of myself or perceived myself. Is it the shape of my body? Well, a while back I got diagnosed with ADHD, got some medicine to help with that, and very rapidly lost about 60 pounds because I learned the difference between hunger and boredom. And what cufflinks not to wear.
Yeah. Cufflinks are.
So it wasn't that. I've been slimmer, I've been bigger, I've had all different kinds of shape to my body, and at no time did any of those changes, while they did affect my general self-esteem, they never made me think, no, I'm not really considering myself changing from identifying as a man. Is it my ability to drink alcohol in large quantities? No, because I grew up in a really religious house, and I didn't drink. I didn't drink for a long time. I didn't know I could drink for a long time. And at no time did I ever say, well, I'm not drinking, I would like to be called her. Never changed my mind, never entered my mind for a moment. All right, well, I was starting to get down to the bare bones of things. I mean, what about having sex? Well, remember that Christian household thing? Affected that too. I was a virgin until I was 30. No shit. You should have heard that cherry pop, man. That fucker popped. Not gonna lie to you, Marge. It's like, but that, so I didn't suddenly change my sense of self the day that I lost my virginity. So what was it? And I got down to nothing but the fact that I just feel that way about myself. And so I'd like to do another final series of impressions for you. This is my impression of a cisgender man.
That's good.
This is my impression of a transgender person.
All right.
This is my impression of a non-binary person. Don't see the difference? Me neither.